Hello, and welcome to the Optics Room podcast, a platform to speak about all things optics from industry professionals. Today we have Obi Malope from South Africa, who helps healthcare professionals and organizations operate on the highest possible level.
Great. So, hello everyone, and thank you for tuning in to the Optics Room again. Today, I'm honored to have Obi Malope, all the way from South Africa, joining us. I'll let him introduce himself, but he owns a very good company called Vision Stripe, and they do fantastic things for optometrists and anyone in the optics industry globally. So, Obi, introduce yourself, please.
Firstly, thank you very much for inviting me onto your platform. It's a fantastic platform. I feel completely privileged and honored that you consider me as someone that could add value to the platform. And so I'm Obi Malope, a qualified optometrist from University of the Free State, all the way from South Africa, the motherland. I qualified in 2008, and I've been privileged enough to have worked in multiple environments within the eye care industry since I qualified. In actual fact, even before I qualified, I was exposed to multiple aspects of the eye care industry, and it eventually led me to starting my own business called Vision Straight.
Amazing. So, what made you think of Vision Straight?
All right. So, when I was in optometry school, I felt like I'm not at the same level as the other students, and I needed to catch up. The best way for me to catch up, in order for me to be a competent student, was to visit optometry practices while I was still studying optometry. So from my first year optometry school, I worked in various optometry practices in the local city where the optometry school was. But at the same time, when it came to school holidays, I would take the opportunity to visit other practices. So whether it was franchise practices, independent practices, practices that were located in the hospitals, I exposed myself to that. And what I came across was that optometry has got multiple facets to it. It's got the educational component, the business component, as well as the academic or clinical component, if I can put it that way. And I realized that the practices that were operating at the highest level of excellence incorporated all three aspects of optometry within their practice. So the academic component was there, the health component was there, and the sales component was all there. And so when I wanted to figure out what would be the ideal optometric practice for me to work in, I struggled to find that one ideal optometric practice. And I realized that a lot of optometry practices also struggled to clearly define what is it that they were providing to their local community. So I came up with this idea while I was still studying in 2006 of creating an organization or a company that will be able to teach optometrists and optometry practices how the three components of optometry need to function cohesively and effectively with one another on a day-to-day basis. And so I spent the early years of my career fine-tuning that so that I can be able to create an organization or a company that can provide a service that teaches optometry practices and optometrists exactly those three components functioning with one another on a day-to-day basis.
I think that's amazing because sometimes you see some people focusing too much on the sales aspect or too much on the clinical aspect, and it's difficult to find one practice or one place that combines everything together. And I'm sure it's the same situation here in the UK as well, where practices struggle to have an identity and they're just carrying on doing what they're doing on a daily basis. But the identity isn't there. So how do you help practices bring have an identity within themselves?
Fantastic. That's a very, very important question that you're asking. And so what we did, we broke down the three components in a very practical manner. We asked ourselves, here's this optometrist who's very academically orientated, but they don't know how to transfer that academic knowledge into a sale.
Very true.
So their practice is dependent on them having that academic knowledge. And so what we did, we then went and wrote books for the optometry industry that simplified all the academic knowledge that we study or that we learn in optometric school. So the books that we then wrote were then the academic resources that we can put in optometrists' hands for them to then take this complex knowledge that they have learned and simplify it for situations in which they can be able to communicate with the patient. So for example, that are academic oriented optometrists will struggle to communicate effectively with their patients, will struggle to communicate effectively with their staff. So their staff will not necessarily have the academic capacity that they have, but they will perhaps have the business savvy knowledge or acumen that will enable that staff member to take that academic knowledge and be able to simplify it in order to communicate with the patient. So the resources that we developed were a lot of practical books. We've written 5 books for the optometry industry, which is focused on simplifying very high intensity academic knowledge in a manner in which practices can take up that knowledge and be able to communicate effectively with their respective patients or staff. So that's one way in which we help optometrists. Another way in which we help them is we developed workshops, training workshops, where we've got a workshop that is a sales workshop, a business activation workshop, staff development workshop, a training and development workshop, optical dispensing workshop. So we then looked at 100%. We looked at what happens at optometry school is usually different than what happens in optometric practice on a day-to-day basis.
Very different.
You're finding that
interaction with that patient, you don't get the interaction with staff. It's just academia.
100%. And what I don't know what happens in the UK, but I remember in South Africa when I was in optometry school, the patients that we were seeing were coming from disadvantaged communities, and they would be the ones that we are coming to see at the optometry schools in order to see our patient numbers. But when you start working in practice, you're seeing the high incoming earning individuals, the middle incoming earning individuals, patients from different cultures, different economic backgrounds, right? And so we realized that a lot of practices struggle when it comes to how they provide a quality service to their patients on a day-to-day basis, because you struggle to upgrade patients who are on basic management options to better management solutions. We don't know how to do that. So our workshops then are focused on bringing both the optometrist and the optometrist staff together in one room, using practical solutions and examples that they would be facing within the community that their practice is located in then training them and equipping them with the various strategies that they can be able to implement in their respective practices on a day-to-day basis. That was the second way in which we looked at a way in which we can implement solutions that can enable the optometric practices and their teams to better equip themselves in order to provide an efficient service to their patients. A third way was that we looked at, this was like 2015, 2016, we looked at the industry is going to go digital. The industry is going to be more innovative as time goes by. So how do we then develop digital solutions that can enable optometrists to still be relevant and competent in the services that they're rendering to their patients?
I think that's so when optometrists sometimes feel that, oh, am I going to be replaced in 10, 15 years? But
100%.
They have the right skills as a communicator, as a human, having that empathy with the patient, then nothing, no robot, no computer can ever replace that. But
100%.
As an optometrist, you're very much educated and is saying 1 or 2, is it clearer here? Is it clearer there? And yes, you learn a lot of the biology behind the eyes and you can detect a lot of pathology, but that doesn't help you become more efficient optometrist as a person, as a human. So let's dive a little bit deeper. How do you exactly help the optometrist have that human aspect, have that empathy aspect to them?
Wow, that's such a powerful question. I like that question very, very much. How would you want your mother to be treated? How would you want your father to be treated? How would you want your grandmother to be treated when they go to see the doctor for any other reason that has got nothing to do with their eyes? Once you start thinking to yourself that, wait a minute, I would want my mother to be treated this way, with respect, with a lot of care, someone treating them as the most important person to walk into that hospital, for example. So we use that type of thinking into our training manuals, into our books, into our digital platforms, by putting the optometrist to think in that manner, to say, don't look at those patients as numbers. Look at it as an individual, someone that you would want to take personal care of their health, of their eyes. And so what we immediately start doing, we're saying, bring back the human touch whenever you're communicating. So a practical way or a practical example, we broke down the different cultures that exist in South Africa when we started. We looked at the Indian community. This is the typical stereotypes that exist in the Indian community. These are the typical stereotypes that exist in the Caucasian communities and so forth. Then we said, these are the culture norms. This is the communication barriers that exist. These are the preferences when it comes to methods of communication that respective communities or groups have. And so when we started looking at how do people prefer, or what is it that people prefer when you communicate with them, then we then went and made practical examples for when you are in the examination room and you are African young optometrist who just qualified, and an elderly Afrikaans. Afrikaans is one of the languages that is spoken in South Africa. And an elderly Afrikaans high incoming earner walks into the optometry practice that you are in. What will be the first thing that comes to that person's mind when they're looking at someone that looks completely different from them? So we broke down typical examples to say, don't go into a routine of starting your eye exam with the typical diagnostic procedures that you will follow.
Okay.
Be in a position to understand that this person has been wearing glasses or contact lenses for the last 20 to 30 years. Now they are being seen by someone that looks completely different to them, who's inexperienced. What would be the first thing that you will need to do in order to gain this person's trust, in order to make this person comfortable and at ease, so that when you start doing those diagnostic procedures, this person is relaxed and has the confidence to be able to listen to what you want them to hear. So for us, empathy is all about identifying with the respective cultures, people, ethnic backgrounds. What would connect me with this person from the minute they walk into the optometric practice? What is it that the staff need to be aware of in order to connect with someone? Because we want to connect with people in a manner in which we can be able to develop open communication with them. When we've got open communication with them, the communication barriers lessen. Yeah. And if the communication barriers lessen, you put yourself in an opportunity to establish trust. And once you have established trust with a person, it becomes easier for them to go with whatever that you recommend as the management solution.
I think that if we see each customer as just another number for the day, then it's not going to get us very far. But if we see them as a human,
absolutely,
empathy and respect, then you know what, the sales will come, the conversion will come, because that person has now trusted you.
Because you're communicating with them at their level. You're not communicating with them with all these communication barriers between you and them. You identify what makes this person tick, what makes this person comfortable, what do they prefer. Sometimes it's the small little things that open the big doors when it comes to how a patient responds to you. So all our programs are not these complex 10-step program to do this or 15-step program to do that. They are literally all about communication, because if you get the communication right, you're going to get the sales right. And that's how we see
a breath
things.
Of fresh air that you've got in the optics industry. What do you think is missing in the optics industry today?
Wow, what a... People don't care anymore. We're all competing. We want to be the best practice. We want to be the best optometric practice or the best optometrist. And we don't look at ways in which we can collaborate with one another in the industry. And when I say collaborate, look at you and I, we're different. You are adding value to my brand by inviting me onto your platform. I'm adding value onto your platform because you are now reaching beyond the borders of the United Kingdom. You are reaching beyond to Africa. Once I come onto your platform and my network connects with your network and with your platform, it connects and it opens up what you are doing to the industry or what you're doing for the industry. So I believe what's missing in the industry, that's not happening enough of, is that the older generation is not sending enough of the ladder down so that the younger generation can connect with the older generation. I believe that people are sticking into their corners and their comfort zones, and especially across culture. So you've got the Muslim community doing well within the Muslim community. You've got the Caucasians working together. You've got Black people working together. But if we can break through those religious and cultural backgrounds in order to come together and work together and look at ways in which we can contribute to the eye care industry, we will be able to achieve far more than what we're currently doing right now.
Do you
So
find
for me,
a big problem in South Africa, different communities not collaborating with each other and just working between themselves?
not only South Africa, I look at it across America, I look at it in the United Kingdom. From an outsider's perspective, I have not seen enough of people that don't look alike coming together.
Okay.
And that's the only way that the industry can evolve. That's the only way that the industry can grow. And it starts at the optometry schools. The optometry schools, those students that you have are 50 students in the class. You can't have one particular group of people sticking together that because they look alike. You have to bridge the gap that exists between ourselves cross-culturally, if I can put it that way. And that's when we're going to start seeing more innovation, more ideas being shared, more growth taking place from an industry professional point of view. And when that takes place, patients are going to be at the receiving end of that growth that's going to be taking place.
And then as a result, practices will benefit as well. So it's a win-win for everyone.
100%.
Exactly.
100%.
In your experience, what do people struggle with the most?
They don't know what it is that they want to, they don't know the unique value proposition. So I think that's something that's lacking a lot in the eye care industry. People are not clear on what sets them apart from everyone else. So they end up looking at what everyone else is doing, and they fall in the trap of wanting to do what everyone else is doing without being very clear on what is their unique value proposition. Let me ask you a very simple question. What's your role in the eye care industry? What do you do?
I'm a optometrist store manager for a franchise.
Optometrist store, and you're a qualified optometrist as well.
Yeah.
You see, you're working in a group, right? You're working in a group. A lot of the times, optometrists will work in a group, but not have a clear identity of beyond the group.
Yeah.
What is my brand proposition? What is my value proposition? What is it that I bring to the table that is different from everyone else in the group? You've started the optics room. A lot of the times, if I look at it across multiple countries, people struggle with identifying what is it that they bring to the table that is different from what anyone else does. With us, for example, or with me personally, was writing of the books. I did not see anyone who was publishing books every single year. So I decided that's going to be my unique value proposition. And every year I'm going to publish a book. That distinguishes me from all the other leaders that will come in the industry. So I believe that people struggle with identity within the industry, in the sense that what sets me apart from all other optometrists? What do I bring to the table that is different from what other people are bringing? Once you are clear with that, it means then the patients that will be coming to you will be coming to you because you are providing with them with something that they can't get anywhere else.
Absolutely.
And once you are clear on what you bring to the table, you are clear on what you will then attract towards yourself or towards the practice that you are in. You could have 5 optometrists working in one optometry practice, but if each and every one of them are very clear on the unique value proposition and what distinguishes them as the leader or the optometrist in that particular group, the type of patient that you will attract to your practice will be diverse, will be dynamic, will be broad-based, and will not be limited to what the practice is offering, but will be exposed to what the different individual optometrists are bringing into the table. If the optometrists are clear on their value proposition, the staff will become very clear on their value proposition. The practice grows. So for me, people struggle with having a clear sense of identity with regards what is unique about them within the bigger scheme of the industry.
I think it's interesting you say that each person needs to have a unique aspect about them. But what I found, especially in the UK, is that optometrists find themselves very restricted. Although there are many avenues that they can go down towards, whether it's contact lenses or therapeutics or independent prescribing, they find themselves in 4 walls, seeing 15 patients a day and doing the same thing day in, day out, going home, and that's it. And they struggle to see anything outside of those 4 walls. Have you come across that yourself?
Yes, lots of the times. And for me, how I break that mold, I don't prescribe contact lenses, for example. I stopped practicing in 2019. But currently, as you and I are having this podcast, there is the International Myopia Conference that is taking place right now in Netherlands. I submitted an abstract to speak at the conference.
Oh, nice.
And obviously it got rejected, right? Because I'm obviously speaking with you right now. But but what I think about it is that I'm going to go to as many conferences as I possibly can. Whether I can be there physically or be there virtually, I'm going to attend them. I'm going to connect with as many leaders outside of my own scope of practice. So I'm not going to just be connecting with entrepreneurially orientated business leaders in the eye care industry. I'm going to connect with those ophthalmologists and optometrists who specialize in the various competency skills. Why is that important? It broadens my perspective on that particular niche market in the industry. So the more I'm exposed to what's happening with myopia in India, in France, in Brazil, in America, in Ghana, in South Africa, the more my speaking capacity will enlarge, because I will then know what value will I be bringing to a conference in Ghana, what value will I be bringing to a conference in the Netherlands. But a lot of people, they only research or expose themselves to what is in front of them, instead of saying to themselves, wait a minute, I've never been to Africa. What conferences are taking place in Africa next year that I can tie in my holiday with learning experience?
Yeah.
So can I be able to speak at that conference? Can I be able to submit a poster at that conference so that I can be invited in that country? And you don't have to wait until you're 30 years in the industry in order to do so. Yeah. You can provide value at the level at which you are, because you and I could be very young optometrists in the UK and South Africa respectively, but optometry in another country is nowhere close to where it is in our countries, right? So you can go and provide value as an inexperienced optometrist in a country that is completely inexperienced as a whole.
So you sound like in that industry, and that will then build you and build your skills to a level where then you can provide value to other people as well.
Absolutely. So that's how I look at things.
Amazing. So tell me, Obi, if there was one thing that you could change in the optics industry, what would it be?
Yo, no one has ever asked me that question. Yo. Yo.
Tell me, what's one thing you would change if you could?
Yo. Man.
Is it to do with optometrists or to do with the staff, or what would you change in people who run their own practice?
Oh, I've got an answer for you. Actually. I know, I've actually thought about this before. I will change the academic program. Okay. The current, across the world, I will change it across the world. Currently, what you find is that the first 3 or 4 years of the optometry school are focused on the academic knowledge. And then as you're about to graduate, it's focused on the a lot of the clinical work. And then only in your last year of optometry school, or maybe the third and final year, do they focus on the business side of optometry. But I realized that a lot of us only learn the true depths of the business aspects of optometry when we are in practice, correct, not in optometry school. So for me,
in our university, there was no business knowledge given whatsoever, nothing, zero. It was purely.
I will prioritize all three. I'll prioritize all three from the onset, because I believe that when people are exposed to all three aspects of optometry from the onset, and there's enough exposure to students going into the private and public sector while they're still studying, if they can be doing that from first year optometry school and second year optometry school, not only when they start seeing patients, I believe that those two elements themselves can impact the way optometry is sort of like evolving over time. Definitely. You will have better quality optometrists coming out of the university who are well competent in both in all three, academic, clinical, and the business aspect of optometry, instead of having one being more dominant compared to the other one. So that's what I will change.
That's amazing. Thanks for that answer. Because what I find is that when our pre-registration students come out from university and they're doing their pre-reg in practice, they have the academic knowledge, but they don't know how to communicate with the patients because they've never been in a social setting like that before. They don't know how to communicate with the staff. And so they find, so they're going into practice for the first time, testing customers, which is a big deal, but they don't know how to communicate with them. They don't know how to communicate with the staff, and they don't know anything about the business aspect of it as well. And they have their manager breathing down their neck about the business aspect of it at the same time. So I really feel that, as per your suggestion, if all three were given together at university as a course, they would come out of it a lot more confident, and a lot better optometrists would graduate.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Great. Well, Obi, thank you very much for your time. Is there anything else that you wanted to speak about that we haven't covered?
No, this was a fun. I actually learned about myself while I'm in the podcast. So that was very nice. You know, that was very nice. People can connect with me on the different social media platforms under Vision Straight.
Yep.
Or under iAfrica Media, that's another platform that I'm running, or under Activate. So I would love to connect with the different people across the different eye care environments and on the different platforms.
I love what you do, and I wish you all the best. And I really hope your company is even more successful than it is now, because you truly provide a very unique service that other people don't. And it's really valuable to optometrists, optical assistants, anywhere in the eye care industry. It really provides a lot of value to everyone. So thank you, and keep it up.
Hope to meet you in person very soon.
Hopefully we'll come down for a conference. Take care, Obi.
Thank you, man.